The movie begins in 1962, aboard the Italian ocean liner Grazia. The guests were enjoying their evening, dancing to the enchanting voice of singer Francesca. Amid the glamour, little Katie sat alone because finding a dance partner when you're under 5 feet tall isn't easy. But hold on, the captain took the girl to the dance floor. While everyone was having fun, a mysterious prankster decided to spice things up. He tightened a steel cable which, upon release, pulled a final destination in the ballroom, slicing people in half like a hot knife through butter. The party turned into a grotesque scene of dismembered bodies, leaving only Katie alive, thanks to her small height. The moral of the story: sometimes being short literally saves your skin. 40 years later, Captain Murphy and his salvage crew come across the legend of a ghost ship in a bar after a long day's work. Enter Jack, the familiar suspect, spinning tales of sunken treasure and gold bars like a second-rate pirate. Against better judgment or lack thereof, the crew takes the bait and sets sail the next day. At first, everything seems fine, until they almost collide with a massive, rusty ship that doesn't appear on radar. Clearly, ghost ships don't RSVP. Inside the ship, things get creepier than a school cafeteria at night. Messages appear on letterboards, eerie sounds echo, and Katie's ghost begins her cameo tour, showing up at the worst moments. Munder almost falls into a hole, and Maureen gets a head injury in the creepiest pool ever. Forget floaties, this pool comes preloaded with blood. By this point, Maureen is neck-deep in paranormal paranoia, but Jack dismisses her concerns like someone who's definitely hiding something. The crew then finds a digital watch, raising suspicions that others have been here before. Meanwhile, Captain Murphy has a breath-stealing encounter with the ghost of the Grazia's original captain, proving mirrors are always a bad idea on haunted ships. Francesca, the 1962 ship's diva, resumes her spectral singing, leading Greer on a wild goose chase for the music's source. Spoiler: she's right behind him, probably rehearsing for her next scare. When Jack and Maureen discover a chest of gold, it's like hitting the ghostly jackpot. They call the crew, abandon repair plans, and start loading the treasure. But the ship has other ideas. Santos, the mechanic, ends up exploding in a gas leak, leaving the crew traumatized and trapped. Maureen, still focused on Katie's ghost, finds the girl's room and lets out a scream louder than someone losing Wi-Fi. Turns out Katie has been hanging around there all this time, literally decomposed and swinging from the ceiling. In a bizarre twist, Katie's ghost asks for her necklace back, proving that even in death, accessories remain important. Now, let's get to the obvious. What wouldn't you do in this situation? Easy. I wouldn't enter a locked room full of water and corpses. Bad idea doesn't even begin to describe it. What I'd do instead is probably follow Katie's ghost. She's the only one handing out free warnings. It's also worth noting how gold distracts everyone while the ship slowly picks them off. Here's a question to ponder. If you were on the Grazia, would you trust a ghost child to guide you to safety? Or would you think she's part of the problem? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Personally, I wouldn't trust her one bit. Maureen tries to hand over the necklace to the girl, but it simply passes through her hand. At that moment, it becomes clear the girl isn't human. Meanwhile, in the kitchen, 2 crew members find fresh meals and, like clueless hungry folks, devour half without questioning. But the heavenly feast turns into the worst episode of MasterChef. The smell sours, and upon a second look, the food transforms into maggots. Both start vomiting. Elsewhere, Greer is in the ballroom, where everything seems way too fancy for a derelict ship. Suddenly, the room transforms back to a golden era gala. Francesca, the femme fatale from beyond, decides to seduce Greer, who, despite having a fiancé waiting at home, falls for her charms. After a kiss, he follows her like a puppy, but instead of ending up in her room, he plummets from a high platform and dies. Francesca reveals her true, deformed face. Murphy, meanwhile, is in the captain's quarters, where a bottle of alcohol moves on its own, something that should have set off 1,000 alarms. Instead, he's persuaded to chat with the ghost captain, who spills a sinister secret. The Lorelei ship disappeared 40 years ago, and 2 days later, The Graza, the ship they're on, met the same fate. To seal the gossip, the ghost captain hands Murphy a photo that leaves him in shock. Detail: anyone with common sense would have jumped ship by now, but not Murphy. He keeps exploring as if he's Scooby-Doo without the gang. Katie appears to Maureen, revealing that the souls trapped on the ship can't go to heaven because something, or someone, powerful is keeping them there. The solution: blow up the ship. Before explaining who the culprit is, the wall starts changing color, and Katie vanishes, ordering Maureen to run. Elsewhere, Murphy encounters Santos, a dead crew member, and hallucinates so intensely he attacks Maureen, thinking she's a ghost. After being knocked out and locked in an empty aquarium, creativity for containment is top-notch here. The crew decides to focus on escaping the ship. By this point, the gold is a lost cause. The twist arrives when Maureen discovers that the real villain is none other than Jack, the buddy who brought the crew to the ship. He's a demonic spirit whose hobby is collecting sinful souls. After more gruesome deaths, only Maureen and Dodge are left. When Jack tries to trick them with promises of wealth, Maureen decides to blow up the ship and end the supernatural party. But of course, Jack has a final trick. He sneakily reincarnates in the gold, which is transferred to another ship, promising to continue his cycle of sins. The iconic opening scene, where an invisible wire slices the passengers in half, is considered one of the most memorable in horror cinema, even if the rest of the film is somewhat divisive among critics. Now, what wouldn't I do? I definitely wouldn't accept food from a ghost ship, and I'd probably swim away at the first sign of floating alcoholic drinks. One interesting aspect is how the film explores the concept of sin and redemption, blending physical and psychological terror. Now here's a video where I tell the story of a girl locked in a room and forced to watch her boyfriend cheating on her. Check it out and stay safe.